Hello, everyone. I am Violet, your Tai Chi examiner. And today I have the honor to invite Bill Douglas to the studio and then actually, he is in his studio. I am in my studio, right? But we are in a virtual studio, uh, together to talk about something which is very, very important. And then it's not just for us individual, it's also for the society, for nation, and probably for the world. And some of you, if you practice Tai Chi and Qigong, Bill Douglas should not be a stranger to you. And you probably know he is the co-founder of the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day about 26 years ago, right? Almost at that mark, 26 years ago. And Bill and his wife, Angela Wong, they live in Kansas City, Missouri. And 26 years ago, they had a great idea. Say, since Tai Chi and Qigong help them so much, and they would like to share the art and the joy with the world. So they practice Tai Chi and Qigong in front of Nelson Art Museum in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And CNN was there and reported. And from that on, and that's the history. Everybody know that the last Saturday of April each year, that's a World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. And I think, Bill, you are a little bit conservative when you are talking about how many cities actually participated in the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. I think you say hundreds, and I think it's more than that because there are a lot I know of a lot of small cities, and that they don't really, register with the organization, but they also celebrate that event. And I used to live in St. Louis, Missouri, and there are several different organizations. They all hosted their own celebration. So that's great. And Bill, thank you very much. I know you've been very busy. You were just interviewed by someone else early today, right? And then now you're here and willing to share your vision and then your ideas with us. Thank you so much. And first of all, do you want to say hi to everyone?
Well, one thing I'd like to start with is I just want to tell you how grateful I am to be on your Tai Chi Examiner program because most of your listeners probably know this, but anybody who's new to your program or your writing, they need to know you've been a real force in the Tai Chi and Qigong community because you've helped spread awareness of Tai Chi on so many levels to so many people. So, yeah, it's a real honor to be on your program today, and I really appreciate you giving me the
Well, thank you for your kind words. One time, you probably know Sifu Justin Meehan in St. Louis, Missouri, and I, like you say, I do a lot of writing about Tai Chi and Qigong, and without compensation, and so he said, Violet, you're going to be like Bill. I say, Bill Douglas? He said, yes. I said, are you kidding? And the Bill is up there. He has done this work for so many years. He and Angela just devoted themselves so much to promote this art. I said, there's no way, I can compare myself to Bill. And a lot of time, Bill, I feel like you are like a missionary. You're like a priest. You just keep preaching year after year and without being tired. I don't know how you can do that. so that's just very, very incredible. And so for everyone, if you're new to the Tai Chi and Qigong practice, and you can go to the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day and website, or you find in the Wikipedia. And you find definitely in YouTube's, and that there are a lot of celebrations each year in so many different cities. And I know, Bill, you put in a lot of effort. You collect the videos from all over the world, and then you put together, you edit them. And every time I watch it, and it just, it really, moved me and touched my heart. And again, as a practitioner myself, and I have nothing but, a big thank you to you and Angela. That's
Yeah.
just
Thank,
wonderful.
yeah, thank you, Violet. And one thing I wanted to say is, you know, uh, yeah, you mentioned, how do you keep doing this for 26 years? And as you were saying that, it was like, my mind is unfolding pictures and things. And I realized that the reason I was able to keep doing that was because there were visionaries all over the planet, like you guys in St. Louis and, cities all over the world, places you'd never imagine that people were doing Tai Chi and Qigong. And they organized these events, and some of them were like huge and massive events, like the one in Egypt. I'll talk about that later, maybe. But seeing those videos of the world coming together for no other reason than to celebrate health and healing and connection, because the motto of World Tai Chi Day is one world, one breath. And seeing all these people from all these disparate lands, different religions, different races, everything, every stripe of humanity coming together to play Tai Chi and Qigong. And so, it's like I had, in order to edit these videos and also, just post them off of YouTube on our newsletter and website, being immersed in these images of the world coming together to play, it's like all these people around the world inspired me and Angie. And so it was like we were lifted by what everybody was doing around the planet. So it was like we were all doing it together. Our energy was flowing back and forth, between all these
But
visionaries
you
around the
guys are
world.
the catalyst. You got it started, and not just started, just keep going and going and going. It's like an energizer bunny and never stop.
Well,
Right.
yeah, there were, it was like, the things that happen in our lives. One of the things that we have a YouTube channel called at Global Transformation Project, and we have monthly discussions that we did for about a year with scientists. And we had one scientist on from the University of Virginia, Division of Perceptual Studies, Dr. Kim Penberthy, and she talked about a study where they taught people how to meditate. And then what they found was that after these people, the study group started meditating, over 50% of them started reporting extraordinary consciousness experiences, like synchronicities, for example, where you think of somebody and the phone rings, or you drive into a parking lot and that perfect parking space just opens right when you get there. And so these things happen to people more and more often when they meditate. And then the other thing that I found is that once I realized that these things happen, and it's normal, really, then I started noticing synchronicities more. And so now I realize that the more I notice them, the more I have them. But World Tai Chi Day started with a synchronicity. And what happened was, uh, and I didn't understand it was a synchronicity until years later when I went back to dissect everything that happened, and what it was that drove me and Angie to spend 26 years promoting other Tai Chi and Qigong and mind body teachers around the planet instead of putting all of our energy into getting rich. Because we could have put all that energy into trying to get our classes to be huge, and having what I mean? It's like that energy could have went a different direction. But what happened was two things. One is I got my first hospital class. And before I get into that, let me just tell you, you were talking about me being an evangelist. That happened like almost 50 years ago when I discovered Tai Chi and Qigong and meditation and mind body and yoga and mindfulness and these things. And I was so electrified by it because I felt so much better. I was doing it for emotional and mental issues, because I
Wait,
was
wait,
young.
wait, Bill. Excuse me. You say 50 years ago, 50?
Yeah, yeah, 50 years
But
ago.
you don't really look that old, or you started practicing at age 10, or what are
Yeah,
you
well, I'm on
saying?
my way to
I don't get
69.
it.
Yeah, I'm on my way to 69, but I feel like a teenager and I don't have any pharmaceuticals that I have to take or anything like that.
So
And it's
you
all mind
started
body.
about when you were 19. That
I was in my early 20s. That's when I
oh,
started.
okay. So
Yeah, yeah.
approximately
I was
50.
going through a lot of mental and emotional stuff because we moved to Los Angeles and I grew up in a small farm town in Western Kansas. And I loved California. I loved Southern California. It was a blast. We had a lot of fun. But the traffic and the urban sprawl, that was really taxing for me. And then I had kids too. We were starting to have kids. And a lot of stuff. My father had PTSD. He was in 3 years of frontline combat in World War II. And when I had my kids, I started kind of reacting to them the way that my dad reacted, and I didn't want to repeat that cycle. I didn't want to repeat it. And so that's how I discovered mind body. And so that's what threw me into mind body practice. So I was doing it for mental and emotional reasons. But anyway, it was helping me so much that it was like every time I'd come home for Thanksgiving or Christmas or something, my relatives would see me coming, and they'd be going, "Oh God, we're gonna have to listen to all that Tai Chi and meditation stuff again." You know, because I just couldn't help telling people about it because it was so helpful. And then what happened, what this led to was, I was telling all my relatives, none of them were doing it. And and then what this led to was years later, many years later, I never planned on teaching. I was trying to get my family to do it, but I wasn't a teacher. But I did, I told them things that I was learning in my classes, and I didn't plan to teach. But then when I moved to Kansas City, one of my neighbors asked me if I would teach him how to do it, and so he paid me, and then that's how my classes started. Well, anyway, I got my first class in a major health network, a major hospital, around that time, Shawnee Mission Medical Center in Kansas City, and the class wasn't for the administration or the staff; it was for the public. But Tai Chi and meditation and Qigong and stuff, they were really weird back then. It wasn't, something that you hear about a lot back then. So a lot of teachers enrolled in our class because they were curious, what's going on in there. And a lot of doctors is what I meant to say. A lot of doctors came to our class. And after 8 weeks in this, Tai Chi Qigong meditation class, I teach kind of like yogic meditation too, and mindfulness, of course, which is all part of Tai Chi and Qigong as well. And anyway, after 8 weeks, it was blowing these doctors' minds. They were getting off like hypertension med, chronic pain med. Later, some of them got off of like diabetes medications and stuff. And there was a surgeon in the class that had chronic pain and limited mobility from a whiplash injury she had years before. And being a surgeon, she'd been through every Western medical, therapy that she could find. She still had the problem. After 8 weeks in this class, she had full mobility, no more chronic pain, no more chronic pain meds, any of that kind of stuff. And so these doctors, it was blowing their minds. And this was before I knew about Google. Maybe there was no Google then. I don't really know.
Yeah,
But
I was going to say that there was.
yeah. But what they did was they went to their hospital database and they started searching for medical research on Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, these things, and they started handing it to me because it was validating the benefits that they were seeing. Yeah, and at first I was thinking, well, why are they giving me this? I'm not a doctor, I teach Tai Chi, right? Because I'd only been doing it for stress. And but then that stack just got bigger and bigger. And then I got that contract with Macmillan Publishing in New York to write the Complete Idiot's Guide to Tai Chi and Qigong. And so the science went into that book. And so then I was becoming aware of more science, and I discovered Google. And then it just became mountainous.
Yeah,
And I
I
came to
actually had that book, the Tai Chi for Dummies. Is that the
no,
book
it
you?
was the Tai Chi for Dummies was somebody else's book. It was the Complete Idiot's Guide to Tai Chi and
Oh,
Qigong.
okay. Yeah. That one. I know I had your book. That's for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
that might have been a
Okay.
good book too. I didn't actually read it. But anyway, all this 40 years of collecting the science became the Gospel of Science second edition. And it's going to be free on World Tai Chi Day on Amazon Kindle. But anyway, what happened, here's the synchronicity that I'm leading up to, is what happened was, okay, so I'm in this hospital class. I was pretty young at the time, so these old doctors in the class are getting off all these medications and stuff. And at that same time when that hospital class was going on, I happened to be digging through my basement in my house, and I came across a note that my mother had written the night before she died. And she had had a premonition that she was going to die the next day. She was having just a basic medical thing. It wasn't supposed to be dangerous or anything, but somehow she knew she wasn't going to make it. And she wrote us all a note. And the first note she wrote was directed to me. And she said, "I wish I could go back a few years and learn the arts of relaxation that you had tried to teach me for a healthier life, so that because I would have loved to have seen my grandchildren grow up." And so
Oh.
right when that I found that note in the basement, because I had forgotten about that note. That was many years before when my mom died. I had forgotten about that note, but I found it in the basement right when I started the hospital class, and I was seeing all these old doctors get off of the meds, same meds my mom was on, right? And struggling with.
Mhm.
And I realized that, yeah, she could have lived a lot longer. My dad could have lived a lot longer if they would have known about this science
Mhm.
on mind, body, and Tai Chi and Qigong. And then they would have done it. If their doctor would have told them to do it, they would have
Mhm.
done it. Even though their son was trying to get them to do it, but she regretted not doing it. And so that happened right at that same time. And so what I did was I started collecting as much of this science as I could. And I started sending it out to the media all around the world. And they weren't interested. They weren't the least bit
Mhm.
interested. And so I was frustrated. And so one day I was sitting there on my back porch and I was meditating. And this idea popped in my head. And it's the basically the what the idea told me was that Tai Chi is so visual for cameras. It's so kind of visually spectacular that if you get a mass of people in a beautiful public location and
Mhm.
invite the media to cover it, they won't be able to resist it. The cameras will want to cover this because it's going to look so unusual and
Mhm.
spectacular. So we ended up organizing for months, and we got 200 people to show up on the south lawn of the Nelson Atkins Museum, a gorgeous location in the center of Kansas City. And they were all spread out over this lawn, and all the local media showed up. And
Wow,
yeah,
this is the first time I actually heard the origin of how this whole thing came about. This is so amazing, incredible.
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
synchronicity. Yeah, and so all the media showed up, and now here's another synchronicity. Later that afternoon, one of my students got a call from a friend of hers in Dallas, and she said, "I saw you on CNN today." And we're like, "What?" Well, CNN picked up one of the local Kansas City news feeds. And
Mhm.
then other teachers in other cities and countries started to know about it because CNN was a worldwide thing back then. Ted Turner still owned it. Who I wish he would have hung on to it. He was much better at it than the people that are doing it now. So then we started getting contacted by other schools, and they said, "Yeah, we'd like to do this too." So then we said, "Let's call it World Tai Chi Day." So we went on the internet to see if we could get worldtaichiday.org, and we could. It was there. And so we grabbed it. And that became worldtaichiday.org. And that was the catalyst for this thing. And then Dr. Roger Nelson contacted us from the National Qigong Association. He said, "Bill, this should be World Tai Chi and Qigong Day because not everybody that does Qigong does Tai Chi." See, I thought they all did because that's the way I was trained. Tai Chi and Qigong were just
Mhm.
two of the same thing. And so I said, "Yeah, that makes perfect sense. World Tai Chi and Qigong Day." And so we changed that, but we couldn't change the website, worldtaichiday.org. And then what happened was these events started spreading around the world. And Mohammed Essa in Cairo, Egypt, was organizing a World Tai Chi and Qigong Day event. But we were also calling it World Healing Day because it was starting to involve yoga and meditation and mindfulness teachers as well that were coming to World Tai Chi Day events. So we called it World Tai Chi Day and also World Healing Day, all on the same day, last Saturday of April. And he organized this massive event, thousands of people, and it went on for 12 hours. It even had Sufi dancers. It had Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, and Sufi dancers too, which is kind of a meditative,
Mhm. Yes, yes, very
discipline.
meditative.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
so then that's when I started, vigorously collecting the science on all the big five mind body practices. Because at worldtaichiday.org we have that medical research library anybody can use. It's free, and you can click on it and you'll find 100 common health issues. And if you click on it, like heart disease or ADHD or fibromyalgia or whatever, you click on whatever it is that you want to know about, and then it'll show you. And it always showed all the Tai Chi and Qigong research, but we've been adding yoga, meditation, and mindfulness research as well, because all of them are so powerful. for
So
these
you're
things.
saying with the ebook, and then they can click on there and then take them to the more information, right, for the individual study. Is that what you're saying? No,
Yeah,
no, no.
if you go to if you go to worldtaichiday.org,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and then there's tabs at
I
worldtaichiday.org, and
see.
one of the tabs is Tai Chi and Qigong. And if you click on that Tai Chi and Qigong tab, you'll see medical research library. And when you click on that, it has 100 common health issues that people are dealing with. And people can click on any one of those health issues and get all the research that we've collected for Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, and mindfulness, and
Okay,
how it
well,
helps that condition.
your website is, how should I say? Uh, it's like a dictionary. It's like a thesaurus, okay? And then it's like a Wikipedia for Tai Chi and Qigong, right?
Yeah.
And then so it has so much information. And if you can do me a favor, send me the link about what you just said, and I will put, um, underneath our video, and
Oh,
then
okay.
in the about section. And also, I'm writing an article about our discussion today, and it will be in there as well. So if
Oh,
you
great.
can send that to me, that will be very, very helpful. Thank you so much. And
Okay.
it is so good to hear the history and then how this all came about. And
Well,
back,
that's how
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, that's how we were able to do this for all these years. It's
Yeah.
because it was like what happened with my mom and what happened with those doctors in that hospital room. It just electrified us because we knew this could be saving hundreds of millions of lives all over the planet and saving people untold misery and saving vast amounts of money. I mean, we're talking trillions of dollars every year. And so
That's
that's what keeps us
definitely.
going. Yeah.
That's definitely, and you probably know this, but a few years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I reported a story that's about the mega Tai Chi in Mexico City. They had like 5 or 6 thousand people, and
Cool.
then to come out and celebrate the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. Of course, they were telling me because the local audience, they were not, and can you imagine 5 6 thousand people in the city center? So
Yeah.
it's very difficult. They have to block a lot of streets, so they could not do on that exact day. But I think they did a few days prior to the World
Uh,
Tai Chi Day. However, they still label it as World Tai Chi Day, and
yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah.
celebration. That was just amazing,
Yeah, I'd love to see
to
that link. I haven't seen all the links, but they did that in Havana, Cuba too. They had thousands of people in Havana, Cuba, in the center of the city. I mean, it was spectacular. Yeah.
yeah. And well, see, you just reach out and to so many different places, and I think when you create a movement like that, and then that can galvanize people everywhere. And yes, otherwise people they may practice, and but it's different when you have an event like that, and it's like a wave, and from starting from like Fiji, right, and then keep going west, and then just get, going through all the Asian countries, the Middle Eastern countries. It doesn't matter if
Africa,
they
Europe.
agree with each other politically, but they all practice the same Tai Chi and Qigong, and then go around the Europe, and then come to the US and
Yeah, all
end
over
at
Africa too.
Hawaii.
All
Yeah,
over Africa too.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure. And currently, I have students and from Africa, and they're studying with me, and because they understand the importance of this healing. How can they help? How the healing art can help themselves and help others, and
Mhm.
so it's incredible. And so regarding you mentioned about global transformation project.
Hmm.
And can you tell us what is the idea behind it, and what kind of project you are trying to have, and then how would that transfer? I don't know. Do you want to
Well,
transfer who?
yeah, let me start with where this vision will go
Okay.
if we can get the world mind body community, Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, if we can get them behind getting us 100,000 at least signatures at globaltransformationproject.org for a United Nations resolution, a non-binding, nobody be forced to do it, but it would be we would use the United Nations General Assembly as a vehicle to get the science on mind body for public education out to public educators all over the planet with an encouragement that mind body practice become part of public education's curriculum. Because if we did that, it would make public education so much more effective, because the science shows that regular meditators IQs increase 20 points. And that's only the beginning. GRE reading scores improve, math proficiency, verbal fluency, test scores go up, bullying rates go down, and the number of kids that would end up in prison would be vastly less, because what happened was, uh, we've been organizing World Tai Chi Day, we've been getting the information out there and everything, and a couple of things happened. One was I got invited to Folsom Prison to do a mind body presentation for the prisoners at Folsom Prison. And I thought I was going to be introducing them to, mind body and Tai Chi and meditation. But when I got there, I found out they'd had a program for 2 years. Judith Trethway had been doing the program, and so when I got to Folsom, uh, the uh, the prisoners had already been doing a Qigong, a Tai Chi Cha program for 2 years prior to me getting there. And one of the inmates, James Hackler, I believe was his name. He's out now. He's a Qigong teacher now, a Tai Chi Cha teacher. But he was like an assistant teacher at Folsom at the time, and he'd been looking at prison data statistics over the 2 years of their program. And he found two amazing things. One is that the recidivism rate, the return to prison rate for the prisoners in the Tai Chi Cha, the Qigong meditation group, their recidivism rate, return to prison, had dropped from 70%, which is normal, down to 30%.
Wow.
But the thing that really electrified me was that also the data showed that the behavior rates, they call it incident rates, fights, contraband, all that stuff, the incident rates for the whole prison had improved because of a small group of meditators. And that got me to start looking at larger possibilities of this. And then I found out the Transcendental Meditation Foundation had been working with local police departments and universities, and they'd been doing massive research. And what they found is that if they brought in 1%, the equivalent of 1% of a city's population into a city to meditate together, they would dramatically reduce the violent crime rates for the whole city. Emergency room visits, all that stuff would reduce. And they brought the violent crime rate down in Washington, D.C., that was their first project, by 23% at high crime season. And that really electrified me, because I had had that Folsom experience where I saw that a small group of people see what it is, what the science shows is that when we go into coherent consciousness, which is what all these meditative practices do, alpha brainwave state, it doesn't stop at our skulls. It ripples out through the society around us. And so a small group of meditators can improve the quality of life for a whole city. And so then I was, just electrified by that. And then another thing that happened was around, or a little bit after that, I became aware of research at Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory, where they found out that people's consciousness could affect their computers. So computers are ones and zeros. And so they created what's called a random event generator. And so normally, under normal circumstances, if you looked at the data for their random event generator, it would vary, but it would hover around the center line, because it would be 50-50. If you flip a coin enough times, it's 50-50. And these random event generators, like I said, they flip a coin 200 times per second. But they found that people's consciousness could influence it. They could take ones or zeros, and it would actually diverge when they were thinking of it. They weren't like the X-Men where they could just make it do it all the time, but the mathematics showed that they could make it go more that way. And so then they started taking these random event generators out into the public, and they took them to like cathedral mass, opera, symphony, and what they found was that when people's consciousness was focused together on something, that it sent their computers off track. And so they were realizing that there was a greater coherence in consciousness that they were able to measure. And so they ended up putting these. Well, another thing that they did was they took it to a shopping mall, showed nothing. It was completely normal at a shopping mall because everybody's brains are in different, buy this, shop here, get this, normal life, right? And so people were all over the place, and the computer showed it. They didn't have coherent consciousness. They were all scattered all over the place. And then they decided to put these random event generators all over the planet, and that became the Global Consciousness Project. And what they found, the first thing they found was Princess Diana's funeral. When Princess Diana's funeral happened, their computers went off track. So human consciousness planet wide was in a greater cohesion because they were all, billions of people were focused on Princess Diana's death. She was pretty beloved in the world. And then the other thing, the first one that they noticed too was 9/11. When 9/11 happened, people's consciousness went into coherence. But then they started looking at non-tragedy type things, like global connective events, like world meditation and things like that. Now, I contacted them in 2007, and I said, we organized this thing called World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, where people are doing Tai Chi and Qigong together all over the planet for a 24-hour period. Could you look at your data, your computers, and see whether we have an effect? Well, they didn't get back to me. I was really disappointed. I just thought, well, I guess we didn't have enough people doing it or something. I forgot all about it. But then in 2022, when I was getting ready to go do the final edit, when I was doing the final edits on this book, a thought popped in my head. And I said, I'm going to contact the Global Consciousness Project again, and I'm going to see if they showed anything for any other global mind-body events. Because there was a, UN World Yoga Day, there's a UN World Peace Meditation Day. And so I just wanted to see if any of those events had an effect. And they got back to me right away this time. And they said, oh yeah, we've been studying, hundreds of these. And right at the top was World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. World Tai Chi and Qigong Day had shown a measurable increase in global coherence of
Whoa.
consciousness. Yeah. And then I also found out that World Yoga Day had done that as well, and World Peace Meditation Day had done that. And when you added up all their data, all these studies together, there was only like a 1 in 3 trillion chance that this happened by pure chance. 1 in 3 trillion. So that means that there's a global consciousness, they can measure it, and it is positively impacted by these global events. And so then I realized, oh my God, if we could get hundreds of millions of public school children to be able to go into coherent consciousness on a daily basis, what effect would that have in the world? Well, we know it would dramatically reduce violent crime and conflict. We're talking, I mean, when we say global transformation project for, the petition where you can go sign the petition, we're not kidding around, folks. We're talking about global transformation. Globaltransformationproject.org. You can sign the petition. You can share it on your social media with all your students. All the mind-body people in the world should have a fever to get these signatures in there because me and Angie are willing to dedicate our lives to get this UN resolution. And then all the teachers and all the schools who understand the value of mind-body, and a lot of them do, they'd be able to take this UN resolution, all this science into their school board meetings and their administration meetings. They'd be able to say, hey, look what's happening around the world. We should be having this in our school. It would bring our students' IQs up 20 points. It would boost their immune system. It would reduce bullying. It'd improve test scores. Here's the science on it. We can change the world, the whole future of humanity, but only together. That's what organizing World Tai Chi and Qigong Day showed me. If me and Angie would have been the only people to show up, I tell my students this all the time when I'm trying to get them to go to World Tai Chi Day in Kansas City. I tell them, if me and Angie were the only ones that showed up in Kansas City 26 years ago on that lawn, do you think the media would have covered it? Do you think CNN would have picked it up? Do you think we would have changed the consciousness of the whole planet? No. Bill and Angie don't have any power at all. But what the science shows is when we come together it
Mm-hmm.
releases a powerful possibility for our consciousness. And so we're dreaming our future. So all those teachers, when I contact them and talk about this, and when they tell me, oh, that could never happen, I tell them, well, you know what? If everybody thinks the way you do, you're absolutely right. And
So,
if I would have thought that with World Tai Chi Day, there'd be no World Tai Chi Day.
yeah, well, I don't know. This sounds so important, and I don't know how you actually, send out your message.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes people's consciousness nowadays we are so materialistic, and
Mhm.
people are looking for short and results or quick return.
Mhm.
I don't know how many people actually will care about that.
Yeah, that's
But
going to
at the
have to
same
change.
time, I think what you mentioned about, you know, um, increase the students' grades,
Mhm.
and then also reduce the bullying
Mhm.
at school. And actually, they probably act less rambunctious at home, right? They
Yeah.
probably behave much better. I don't know if we can get people's attention or not. And
Mhm.
well, definitely the practice can make all of us, in,
Mhm.
including children, and then to be a lot more healthy.
Mhm.
And that's for sure.
Well, the
Uh,
thing about the thing about the children's thing
mm-hmm,
is children, over these years of talking to all these scientists, because
mm-hmm,
I talked to scientists for years,
mm-hmm,
explaining all the science on this that went into the Gospel of Science second edition, which is going to be free on World Tai Chi Day on Amazon Kindle, by the way, for Americans. Unfortunately, I can't give it away outside the United States. But one of the things that I learned from talking to these scientists is that children are in an alpha meditative state, which is what Tai Chi and Qigong and yoga and meditation mindfulness can produce. If we do Tai Chi and Qigong as a mindfulness meditation,
mm-hmm,
it'll take us into the alpha brainwave state. And children are in the alpha brainwave state most of the time up to about age 7. And then they lose touch with it. And then they start healing. They don't heal nearly as fast as they used to, and they don't learn nearly as fast as they used to. So if we get mind-body practices into public education around the world, and we will one day, I just don't know whether it'll be in my lifetime. I hope it could be if everybody signed the petition and spread it and got behind it. But all I can do is put it out there. But the thing is these practices in public schools, they're not teaching kids something weird. They're teaching them how to stay in touch with their meditative alpha state consciousness that they're naturally in. And then they lose touch with it when we start pulling them out of their right brain and trying to just make them
mm-hmm,
all left brain widgets that just do things but don't really, open up to their cosmic consciousness. Because kids do that naturally when they're little kids. So we'd just be teaching kids how to, maintain, that ability with, so like animal qigong, with kindergartners and first graders, second graders, you'd be teaching them fun things, animal qigong. There's yoga teachers that know how to teach for kids, you make it real playful and fun all the way
oh,
through
that
12th grade.
definitely.
Mm.
A couple of my students, and one teaches in Europe right now, and she teaches kids
Yeah.
qigong, and including the five animal physics. And another one in the U.S. She works with from kindergarten until the elementary school students. And yes, you're absolutely right. Kids
Yeah, and they should
love
they
those
should get
exercises.
yeah, they should get in touch with us because we put videos of places where it's already happening in public schools so that people can
Oh,
see that it's already in public schools and it's having a great effect.
so
The only
if
problem
we
is it
talking
should be
about,
in
yeah,
every public school. Yeah.
so if we're talking about 7 year old, so we actually are talking about kindergarten. From it should probably
Yeah.
should start from the kindergarten on,
Yeah,
right?
kindergarten through 12th grade. That's what we're advocating. 1 hour a day, 5 days a week. So
Mm-hmm.
you'd have a whole generation of mind body masters. And but getting back to what you were talking about people, their minds are everywhere, especially since the lockdowns. A lot of Tai Chi and Qigong schools went out of business, mind body schools during the
Mm-hmm.
lockdowns. It was really tragic for small businesses. 500 million small businesses went out of business. And so, yeah, everybody's trying to figure out how to reestablish their classes and make a living. They don't really have time for a bigger vision. But the sweet thing about the Global Transformation Project is me and Angie are willing to do all the work. All they've got to do is get everybody they know to sign the petition. It takes about 10 seconds. We're not asking people to do any heavy lifting here. Sign the petition, put it out on your social media, urge all your students and contacts to do this, because what it'll do, once we use this vehicle, we get the UN to do it. The public schools start incorporating this more because of that UN
Mm-hmm.
resolution with all the science showing them that it's so obvious they should be doing it. And then what will happen is these
Mm-hmm.
teachers are going to be getting invited into their public school systems around the world. They'll
Mm-hmm.
be interviewing mind body teachers, Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, mindfulness. That's what we're advocating.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be interviewing them to come into the public schools to teach kindergartners, first graders, second grade, all the way through 12th grade. It's going to take a lot of mind body teachers to have a 1 hour a day mind body class for all those different grades. This would be a huge source of employment for mind body teachers. Now, not everybody likes to teach kids. Fine, teach the seniors in high school. Do whatever it is that you resonate with. But this could really boost your local teaching as a business. So if you don't give a crap about the whole world or saving trillions of dollars or keeping kids out of prison, and all you care about is just making a business, this is going to help you. You
Well,
can be as dumb
one
as you
thing
want to
is,
be. But what I encourage people to do is do more of what it is you teach. Because if you do more of what it is you teach, the empathy and compassion and connection part of your brain is going to get bigger. And the part that makes you feel separate and isolated and limited is going to get smaller. So throw yourself back into your mind body practice, and then you're going to want to change the world. You're going to want to help these kids. You're going to want to help society. You're going to want to help save trillions of dollars. But even if you don't, you just all you need to do is make a buck, because I know everybody's in financial turmoil. Realize this could make you a lot of bucks. Getting hired to come into a public school and teach public school kids every day, you'll be helping humanity and you'll be making a lot of money.
well,
So
one
there's no
thing to
downside
me,
here.
yeah,
Yeah.
one thing to me is, AI, regardless we like it or we hate it, AI is here, and they will grow
Yeah.
more and more. And
Yeah.
I think the big difference between we human beings and AI is AI don't have the conscience yet, at least,
Yeah.
right?
It has
Yeah,
no
and
heart.
yeah, so that probably is very important. And then that's one thing, how we can cling to humanity,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the mind body keeps you plugged into your connection to the universe. And it could provide children with that as well. And so, like with my, it's like as I was going through all these years and collecting all the science, I had grandchildren, and I started exposing them to things, like mindfulness. Like I teach them, like when, if you're drinking something, like hot water or hot chocolate, whatever, I would tell them, I'd say, my first granddaughter was Angelica. When she was drinking, and I said, Angelica, I said, when you drink that, I said, do you feel that silky liquid in your mouth? I said, do you feel that warmth going down your throat? Do you feel that going into your stomach? And I didn't think she was paying any attention to me. And then about 5 minutes later, I looked over at her and she's taking a drink and she goes like this. She goes, I feel that, Gung Gung. See, I thought I wasn't even thinking about it. I forgot about it. Yeah. And so we can be exposing kids to these, just these basic things that would
But
have
also the bill,
global transformation.
it's great. You made it Tai Chi and Qigong so easy to understand. Even little kid, they could feel it, right? And
Hmm.
then that's very good. You internalize and you make it so easy to understand, accessible to everyone. And I certainly hope and uh, people you're watching, everyone you're watching this video, and if you are instructors or you're not, but if you're instructor, you can encourage people how should I interact with, and ask them to sign the petition. And if anyone you watching it, you think it's making sense, or if you don't understand that well, and on the World Tai Chi Day this year, I think it's April the 26th. Is that right?
Yeah, always
And
the last Saturday of April. Yeah.
yes, so you can go on Amazon.com and then download Bill's book and Gossip of Science, and there's so much information and about the science. It really can blow your mind away. And then so you don't just hear what I say and Bill say. And actually Bill's book is, he cited all this research. It's not a pseudoscience. It's well
Yep.
researched material, and then you can really find out yourself, and then to understand the power of this healing art. It doesn't matter if it's Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, or meditation. It can help you. It can help your family, helping children, and to be healthier physically, mentally, and also build the conscience. And
Yep.
then, like Bill mentioned, through the synchronicity or whatever, right? We all build that humanity around the world, and
Yeah.
make a better world tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I encourage, okay, like Violet, like you just said, Violet, this is going to be
That book is
free.
very big,
Yeah, it'll
very
be free
thick.
all day on Amazon Kindle. Hopefully, I mean, I tried to set it up. Amazon's messed me up before, but I'm doing my best to make sure it's going to be free on World Tai Chi Day. But also, if anybody wants to contribute to our efforts, we get a little bit of a percentage of it if you get it on Amazon Audible. And I highly, if you can afford it, it's $14.99. I tried to keep it pretty cheap, but it's $14.99 for a 700-page Audible book. And of course, you won't sit down and listen to it for 23 hours, but you can listen to it when you're driving. You can listen to it when you're working, doing housework or whatever. And what I've found, because I'm on my fifth through it, it's been out for a few months, and first couple of times I listened to it just so I could correct the errors. But now I listen to it from time to time. I'll go a few months and I'll listen to it again because it gives you such an incredibly hopeful picture of our lives on this planet, how beautiful we are, the healing potential of all of us, and the beautiful things that are happening all over the planet because of people practicing mind-body practices, and then the incredible transformative possibilities if we get this into public school. And so when I listen to this book on Audible, it's so reassuring. It's so reassuring. And the only reason we don't hear about all this science on in mainstream culture and media is because it doesn't make anybody billions of dollars. The only thing that you hear about on mainstream media is something that is going to make people billions of dollars. And you're not going to hear about this, especially because it's actually going to cause some of these companies, like pharmaceutical companies, to lose billions of dollars. And that'll be billions of dollars we can all keep in our pockets. You know what I mean? Or in our national coffers or whatever.
Well, yeah,
And
and we would
but
be happier. First, we don't need to spend the money on the drugs, right? We don't
yeah,
need to go sitting in doctor's office and wait and to be seen. And
yeah.
then we can save our time and money, and also be healthier and happier. And
Mm.
I'm glad, Bill, you told me there's Audible version out there, because I listen to a lot of books, and yes, your book, I actually bought the first edition, and somebody borrowed it, and so last year I got the second edition. However, there's 700 some pages. I
Yeah.
cannot remember everything, right? So now I know I can listen to it, because some of the things, I like to revisit, and uh, just make myself more knowledgeable. And even though I have read a lot of science papers, and
Mhm.
throughout the years, still there are a lot more in your book, and than what I have already, uh, you know, uh, read
Yeah.
about it. So it will be
Yeah.
good. I'm going to get
Yeah, I
the
was
audio
like
version.
you. I had been following this science pretty closely, but when I actually, when I decided to actually do the book and really dig in, it was like there was science out there that I was finding that was just blowing my mind. Just an incredibly beautiful picture of our lives on this planet and what's happening around the planet that we're not hearing about, and the potential of these things. And so when I listened to it on Audible, what the book is it's a combination of the science and then also the vision that unfolded of possibility from, based on this science. And so when you listen to this, because I don't remember everything that's in the book, so when I listen to it,
So did
it's
you
kind of
read the
fresh to
book,
me.
or you
And
have a professional to read the book?
it's artificial intelligence.
Oh,
I was going to read
okay.
it myself, but I kept putting it off. What happened, actually, what made me decide I finally got to get it out on Audible, and that's when I discovered I could do it with AI. And the AI is pretty good. I forget that it's AI when I'm listening to it, to be honest with you. But what happened was I was at a World Tai Chi Day event 2 years ago here in Kansas City, and I started chatting with somebody that was in my class, and she had a friend of hers with her, a guy wearing sunglasses, and he was talking to. We started talking, and I started telling him about the science on mind body and the profound implications for our lives and for the planet. Now, mind body teachers out there, get this. I've been doing Tai Chi and Qigong and mind body for decades. But when I collected all the science and immersed in all the science, which you can do by getting the Audible book, for example, what happened was it started unlocking in my mind the potential of these things in ways that I hadn't seen the potential of until I saw the science validating that potential. And that unlocked my mind. And then it caused me to throw myself back into my own mind body practice, with a new fervor, like when I was young and I first started. And man, magical things started to happen, all kinds of things, health wise, mental wise, physical, world wise, everything. And uh, and so it'll unlock that potential for even even people that have been doing mind body for decades, like I have. And so don't underestimate the potential of this. But when I listen to it, the science and the reality shows this inspiring, beautiful potential for humanity. And what science shows is the biggest indicator of our future health and well-being is our vision of our health and well-being. And so, like I was saying, the media doesn't tell you about this science because it doesn't make anybody billions of dollars. What the media does, and I get into all this in the Gospel of Science, is what the media has discovered is that when they get us angry or fearful or upset, uh, then what happens is it releases stress chemicals, and we get kind of a high off of that. And so we keep coming back to those media sources. We don't realize what's happening, but we keep coming back to it because we're addicted to those stress chemicals. And
Yes,
so
definitely. Yeah.
yeah, so what this book
Hmm.
does is the opposite of that. It gives you not stuff that's going to make you afraid, but stuff that is real and science-based, and it's really hopeful for the future. So while you're being educated about all this mind-body science, which what I'm hoping is when people are, then they're going to tell other people about this because they can't depend on the media to do it, and they can't depend on the medical system to do it. It's all pharmaceutical driven. And so, but while you're getting educated, as you go through this book, you're also being calmed and you're being soothed and you're being inspired and you're losing your fear because you see this incredible, hopeful possibility for humanity that's so tangible, so easy to do. It would be so easy to get mind body teachers all over the world into
Yeah.
public schools because organizing World Tai Chi Day showed us that there are effective mind body teachers in every city on the planet. It would be so easy to bring them into public schools. We're not talking about something that is undoable or vastly expensive or any of that kind of stuff. It's so simple. Bertrand Russell, he said one time, he said truth is always simple. But he said humanity will stampede all over itself to get to something more complicated. And so humanity we'll create all these complicated pharmaceuticals with all these horrific side effects. And we'll create prisons. The United States imprisons more of our people than any country on the planet. So we'll do all this complicated stuff that doesn't get to the root of the problem. And if you get to the root of the problem and you educate kids on how to maintain that connection with the alpha meditative state through these mind body practices, all the sick leaves on the trees. The prisons will start to diminish. We won't need these big militarized, expensive police forces. We won't need this hugely, obscenely profit-driven healthcare system. We'll have a healthcare system that will be teaching people how to do what the barefoot doctors in China were hired to do by villages, which is to keep people healthy. Not to keep them on your treatment for the rest of their life, but to give them tools to be healthy.
Yes.
And then you
Well,
don't have to
that's
pay for
true.
all this
Yeah.
stuff.
I think that your book probably should be popular, especially nowadays. A lot of people, they look at the stock market go up and
Yeah.
down like this, right? So maybe reading your book can calm
Well,
them down. So that's very, very good. And the
you know,
Bill, yeah.
yeah, me and Angie were listening to the Audible yesterday. We hadn't listened to it for months. And so we started listening to it yesterday and we started talking about it. And it's so weird because this book was written 2 years ago, but it sounds like I sat down and wrote it specifically for what everybody's dealing with today. This massive stress, this massive change, everything seems like chaos. And this book addresses all that. And it reminds people to go back to the real reality and the real
Mhm.
science that you're not going to hear about on fear-based media. And it's as if I sat down and wrote this book last night. It's so timely. How I was able to perceive this stuff 2 years before we got here blows my mind. Yeah.
Very good, very good. Well, thank you so much, and Bill, and you have been a visionary for us, and you led us down this path, and which will make us all healthier and happier, and hopefully we will bring the harmony to the world. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
well, it
thank
was
you.
it was you and visionaries all over the planet. So let's get this other wave of visionary stuff going that launched World Tai Chi and Qigong Day and made it a global phenomenon. And let's move it towards the global transformation project, which World Tai Chi Day and World Yoga Day and World Peace Meditation Day all are part of. And we can this is doable. We can do this. Me and Angie, we're going to donate our lives. We're going to once you give us all these
I have
signatures,
no
we're going
doubt
to
that
go do
you will do it. You
it.
have, come this a long way, and I know your determination and then your dedication. And thank you all for for your what you do, and really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, but
Well,
it's all the visionaries out there that made everything we did happen. Like I said, if me and Angie were the only ones who showed up that day, none of this would have happened. It was people like us that were seeing, oh my God, there's a whole other way to do things. If we all come together as a mind body community, we can make this happen. We really can. Yeah.
very good. Well, everyone, if you have any questions, then I think you can reach out to Bill or me, and we will be happy to answer your questions. Well, thank you all very much, and for watching. And Bill, thanks for coming. Okay,
Thank you.
today.
Thank you, Violet.
Bye.